To the crisis in Ukraine. This morning, the head of NATO's military command says the Russian forces who are massed at the eastern border of Ukraine are very, very sizable and very, very ready, to use his words. U.S. military estimates put the number of Russian forces at 20,000. Former Massachusetts governor and 2012 Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney is joining us to talk about that and other news this morning from San Diego. Good morning, Governor, and welcome back to Face the Nation. During the campaign, and I want to start with this, you took a lot of heat for saying that Russia was our greatest geopolitical foe. In the third debate, the president came down pretty hard on you about that.
A few months ago, when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back because, the Cold War's been over for 20 years.
I'm sure, Governor, you're tempted this morning to say, I told you so, but do you really believe that what happened in Ukraine had anything to do with what President Obama has or hasn't done?
Well, but there's no question but that the president's naivete with regards to Russia and his faulty judgment about Russia's intentions and objectives has led to a number of foreign policy challenges that we face. And unfortunately, not having anticipated Russia's intentions, the president wasn't able to shape the kinds of events that may have been able to prevent the kinds of circumstances that you're seeing in the Ukraine, as well as the things that you're seeing in Syria. We really need to understand that Russia has very different interests than ours. This is not fantasy land. This is reality, where they are a geopolitical adversary. They're not our enemy, but they are certainly an adversary on the world stage.
Well, should we have known this? Should we have anticipated it? Because it caught a lot of people by surprise, it seems to me.
Well, there may have been some people surprised, but there were many, many others who predicted that Russia would try and grab additional territory. And certainly when we saw the demonstrations going on in Ukraine, and we recognized that Russia has a major base in Sebastopol in Crimea, it couldn't be a surprise to folks that Russia might take the opportunity to grab that territory. After all, we see reports saying that Russian soldiers came in without Russian insignia, that their trucks didn't have Russian insignia. This had been prepared for some time, and we certainly could have taken action early on. We would have had far more options to try and shape events to keep Russia from moving in. For instance, working with our allies around the world to develop the sanctions, communicating those to Russia very, very clearly, at the same time saying, look, we're not going to interfere with your base in Sebastopol, nor your influence in Kiev. These kinds of things had the potential of keeping Russia from making a devastating move, one that changes the whole political landscape of the entire world, and certainly that of Eastern Europe.